I heard this story for the first time today, and I think it's important to share with all of you. In case maybe like me, you might have reached the ripe old age of nearly 48 years old and never have heard the story of Fannie Lou Hamer. Today, I'm going to read you her direct testimony before the Democratic National Convention in 1964. This is the transcript, verbatim, from the record. Fannie Lou Hamer. Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Ruleville, Mississippi, Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Stennis. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. We was met in Indianola by policemen, highway patrolmen, and they only allowed 2 of us in to take the literacy test at a time. After we had taken this test and started back to Ruleville, we was held up by the city police and the state highway patrolmen and carried back to Indianola, where the bus driver was charged that day with driving a bus the wrong color. Turns out it was too yellow. After we paid the fine among us, we continued on to Ruleville, and Reverend Jeff Sonny carried me 4 miles in the rural area where I had worked as a timekeeper and sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children, who told me that the plantation owner was angry because I had gone down to try to register. After they told me, my husband came and said the plantation owner was raising Cain because I had tried to register. And before he quit talking, the plantation owner came and said, "Fannie Lou, do you know, did Pap tell you what I said?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, I mean that." He said, "If you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave." Said, "Then if you go down and withdraw," said, "you still might have to go because we are not ready for that in Mississippi." And I addressed him and told him and said, "I did not try to register for you. I tried to register for myself." I had to leave that same night. On the 10th of September, 1962, 16 bullets was fired into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Tucker for me. That same night, 2 girls were shot in Ruleville, Mississippi. Also, Mr. Joe McDonald's house was shot in. And June 9th, 1963, I had attended a voter registration workshop, was returning back to Mississippi. 10 of us traveling by the Continental Trailway bus. When we got to Winona, Mississippi, which is Montgomery County, 4 of the people got off to use the washroom and 2 of the people to use the restaurant. 2 of the people wanted to use the washroom. The 4 people that had gone in to use the restaurant was ordered out. During this time, I was on the bus, but when I looked through the window and saw they had rushed out, I got off the bus to see what had happened. And one of the ladies said it was a state highway patrolman and a chief of police ordered us out. I got back on the bus, and one of the persons had used the washroom got back on the bus too. As soon as I was seated on the bus, I saw when they began to get the 5 people in a highway patrolman's car. I stepped off the bus to see what was happening, and somebody screamed from the car that the 5 workers was in and said, "Get that one there." When I went to get in the car, when the man told me I was under arrest, he kicked me. I was carried to the county jail and put in a booking room. They left some of the people in the booking room and began to place us in cells. I was placed in a cell with a young woman called Miss Evesta Simpson. After I was placed in the cell, I began to hear sounds of kicks and screams. I could hear the sounds of licks and horrible screams. And I could hear somebody say, "Can you say, 'Yes, sir, nigger'? Can you say, 'Yes, sir'?" And they would say other horrible names, and she would say, "Yes, I can say yes, sir." "So well, say it." And she said, "I don't know you well enough." They beat her, I don't know how long. And after a while, she began to pray and asked God to have mercy on those people. And it wasn't too long before 3 white men came to my cell. And one of these men was a state highway patrolman, and he asked me where I was from. I told him Rouville, and he said, "We are going to check this." They left my cell, and it wasn't too long before they came back. He said, "You are from Rouville, all right." And he used a curse word. And he said, "We are going to make you wish you was dead." I was carried out of that cell into another cell where they had 2 Negro prisoners. The state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro to take the blackjack. The first Negro prisoner ordered me, by orders from the state highway patrolman, for me to lay down on a bunk bed on my face. I laid on my face, and the first Negro began to beat. I was beat by the first Negro until he was exhausted. I was holding my hands behind me at the time on my left side because I suffered from polio when I was 6 years old. After the first Negro had beat until he was exhausted, the state highway patrolman ordered the second Negro to take that blackjack. The second Negro began to beat, and I began to work my feet, and the state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro who would beat me to sit on my feet to keep me from working my feet. I began to scream, and one white man got up and began to beat me in my head and tell me to hush. One white man, my dress had worked up high. He walked over and pulled my dress. I pulled my dress down, and he pulled my dress back up. I was in jail when Medgar Evers was murdered. All of this on account of we want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off the hooks because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America? Thank you.